It only took them 9 years, but they've finally gone and done it. Yep, they made a Stream Deck with a keyboard built in. I meant what I said. Specifically, it's the Galleon 100 SD by Corsair. Now, Corsair is the same company as Elgato, the makers of the Stream Deck. So I'm expecting integration to be tight. But there are a couple of caveats. Certainly, if you're a Mac user like me and you're a creator, first of all, this is a gaming keyboard. So it has all the zippy lights and a lot of configuration options aimed at that, not creators. But this thing also obviously has a Windows focus because most gaming is done on Windows. So it's not really set up for Mac. Corsair does say that it's compatible, but it gives those sort of usual caveats of like some things might not work properly. Well, I don't like it when some things don't work properly, and I like to see if I can make them work properly. So I've been taking a look and I've kind of got pretty close. Now, in my normal workflow, I'm used to using mechanical keyboards. I love how they feel, and I tend to go for something like a 75% or a TKL 10 keyless style design. This Corsair is a full-size extended design, even though technically you might say it's TKL style, but with the Stream Deck added on, which kind of effectively is a number pad. So make it out what you will. Now, the design is pretty... I don't want to use it in a bad way, but it's kind of gamery. That's to say that it's sort of black and sleek and it has the RGB lighting. The keys are hot swappable. You can customize this thing. I've been using the default switches and the keycaps that it comes with. Not my favorite, but they're not awful. It's just like a perfectly regular keyboard, but I'm used to something that's a little bit more clocky. The hardest thing for me so far has been that this has a Windows format and I've got a European model as well. So there's a couple of differences there that I need to think about, especially when I'm trying to make this much more Mac friendly. But overall, as a keyboard, aesthetically and in terms of design, yeah, it's totally fine, especially if you're using this for like a workflow thing. So maybe it's not going to be your main keyboard, but you're going to be using it more for when you're editing videos, which is what I had in mind, then yeah, it's totally fine. So the first thing you're going to notice with a Windows layout keyboard is that the Windows key and the Alt key are exactly where you want your Command key and your Option key, except one more thing, they're actually in reverse. So the key that has the Windows logo on it, which kind of sort of looks like it might be the Command key, is actually to the left. And then obviously on a Mac keyboard, it's to the right next to the space bar. Now, the good news is that Corsair has software so that you can easily change any key to pretty much whatever you want. Now, don't be confused and download Corsair's IQ software, which is what Google might direct you towards. You want to download something called WebHub, which is, as the name suggests, is a sort of browser-based tool. And then you just open it up and then it'll authorize, click that button, and it'll detect your keyboard. You choose it there, click connect. And away you go. It'll take a couple of seconds. And then you can see your keyboard. And if we come down here into key assignments, we can see everything that I've customized so far. And so as you can see, very first, if we look at the bottom left of this keyboard here, you've got L, Alt, and the Windows key. Now, if I reset those to the defaults, I'll just do one of them so that we're not doing it twice. So you can see that actually that was the Windows key by default. And then all you have to do is go down here and look for L-Alt, drag and drop that onto the Windows key where it was. It'll take a little while to refresh and bingo, there you have it. It's all configured how as Mac users would like it to be. Now, I've only done a few other light alterations. So actually, for some reason, it's got a Windows key and the L-Alt up here. And I am going to say that I have had a few bugs with this software where when I've been sort of experimenting with lighting, which I'll get to in a bit, it sort of resets some of the keys or sometimes they don't stick. It is minorly buggy. And now I don't know whether this is because this is kind of a new keyboard, new firmware, all the rest of it, or if it's just the nature of the software. So I'm going to reserve judgment for now. But what I want these two to be is I want it to be stop and skip back. So if you look here on the sort of middle left, you can choose your assignments like the regular keyboard keys, mouse buttons. You can even assign to this thing on the keyboard if you want. But so I want stop, drop and drag that over to F5, which is what it is on my Mac keyboard. And there you are. We can see that we have it. And then what did I want? Previous track and to be there. So that's going to set. And there we have it. So I've got all my media keys assigned exactly where they are on my Mac keyboard. And then over here, this is like a little interesting thing, more of a proof of concept. But I had this function key F1. I don't think I'm ever going to use it. bold statement, I know. And then actually you can go on the menu, you've got not just mouse buttons and media controls, keyboard keys. You can also choose to have it paste text, a long text if you want, or a macro, which is obviously just a sort of chain of key presses if there's some sort of movement that you do quite regularly. Now, what I've done with the text is, let's update this a bit. So make good content on YouTube, and then which is what we all want to do, right? So, but why have I done it like this? Because that means now if I save that, well, here I am in one of my YouTube shorts, which was published not too long ago, and maybe I forgot to add some tags. Now, if we go down here to where there we are with the tag section. Now, if you always paste the same tags, it's kind of an annoying task to do in YouTube. So if I just press F1, and there you are. I said, make good content on YouTube. So if you want to streamline your process, you absolutely can do it with this keyboard. For example, if you've got one of those sort of descriptions where you put a bit about the video at the top and then you have a lot of boilerplate text and links and product links at the bottom, you could have that already saved onto one of these keys and then you can just bang, put it in one go. And I kind of love things like that. It make me feel like a little bit of a wizard. So let's talk real quickly about the lights features on this keyboard. So they're pretty customizable. You can create zones and even individual keys and have them do different things with lights. Now, for gaming, that's pretty useful, but for creators, maybe not so much. So I was trying to think of different things you could be doing with it. So if we go to lighting, actually, let's do a little test. I've noticed, see how already this key has switched back to playback, which makes me think that there's a connection between these two keys. And look, you've got the Windows key there as well. So this is kind of slightly suspicious that just by changing into the lighting layer of this software and then going back to the key assignment, it's already messed up those key assignments. Anyway, let's proceed with the lighting for now, and we'll get back to that. So this is the current lighting layer I have. So you'll notice it does all the keys do the same thing, just got them set to one color, apart from the media control keys here, which I sort of deselected. Now, if you create another layer, maybe you just want these ones. Was it F5 through F11? So, okay. So F5 through F11. It's a little tricky. There's a trick to it. You have to get it into there you are. So with those keys selected, now I can have them do something else like this visor mode, which is kind of looks like the red lights on Kit in Knight Rider. Now, there's no like real practical purpose to actually doing this other than to remind me that I have reassigned these media keys to something other than the function keys which are written upon them. So it's just an aesthetic detail, but if you have certain hotkeys you want to highlight, you can definitely do that here in the WebHub software. But the problem seems to be every time I meddle with the lights, it changes the key assignments on the keyboard. So I'm going to go back into the key assignment, make sure, look, see, it's like, did that change again? Look, this is crazy. Okay, so let me just get this right. Let's just do this live. So I want Windows key here. I want left alt there. Media and volume. So I want stop here. And now I think we're good. So I'm going to leave that as it is and then back away. But just so you know, this is the basic step you're going to want to take to make this feel a little bit more like a Mac keyboard. Now, your use case may vary and you may want to assign different keys, or maybe I've not covered something which you think is important. Either way, just know that you can do it here. Also, I have a question. Does anyone know what this symbol means? I've literally never had to use it in my entire life. And now with this keyboard, I'm mistyping it about 20 times a day. That's because there's a key between the Shift and the Z key on this keyboard, which is pipe and slash, that isn't on my Mac keyboard. And for whatever reason, it's assigned, the Mac recognizes it, adds that symbol. So I am going to actually reassign that, I think, just probably to another Shift key. So that makes a sort of effectively a wider Shift key. And so if I misstrike, at least I'm hitting Shift and nothing will type. So yeah, just another quirk of a Windows keyboard on a Mac. Of course, you can replace all the keycaps on this if you really want to Macify it so that you have a proper command key and a proper option key. I sort of went for the quick and dirty fix and I kind of swapped the Windows keycap around for the Alt keycap. It's not perfect, but the Windows logo does look a little bit like the squiggly thing on the command key. So that's how I'm living with it for now. Now, before we get to the fun stuff, which is the Stream Deck integration, I kind of want to talk about another cute little feature that this keyboard has on the hardware side, which is maybe not the most elegant solution, but I think it could be useful for some people. Now, this on the back of the keyboard are two USB-C ports, one right next to each other, one with a little keyboard logo and another with a USB logo. So you think, oh, great, I've got an extra USB port. Not quite, or not yet. So the idea is that they've kept these two things separate. And I feel like this is a gaming-specific distinction, that they want to keep all the voltage and the current to the keyboard so that the data flow isn't going to sort of drag down your gaming and all this sort of thing. And then the second USB port, the one with the USB logo, you're meant to connect that directly to your computer. And it does, at this point, absolutely nothing. But what it ultimately does in reality is it activates a third USB-C port, so that you have a USB-C port a bit more accessible on the back of the keyboard here. I can find it with my finger. Technically, you're just occupying a USB port on your PC, connecting that to the keyboard, and then that's piping it through into this more accessible one here. So it's more like an elaborate extension, but it's pretty useful. I like the fact that it's really nearby. My Mac is actually within touching distance of my keyboard, so I don't necessarily need this. But if all your USB ports are around the back of a PC and they're a bit harder to get to, then yeah, this is actually pretty handy. So that means certainly if you've got like a pen drive like this, you've just done a day's shooting and you want to sort of access your media, you can just pop it into the back of the keyboard like this and your drive will pop up in Finder. Much, much easier than having to get on your knees and hunt around for your USB-C port on the back of your PC, if that's your use case. Either way, a nice detail. But what about that integrated Stream Deck? That's the whole point of this keyboard. Really, it's the exciting thing for creators, that's for sure. So it's got 12 buttons, 2 dials. All of the buttons can be configured to do anything that a regular button on a Stream Deck can do, which is a whole bunch of things. Particularly good in my mind for video editing. If you've got like shortcuts you use all the time, you can just tap them in straight away. Now, when you connect it to the Mac, it's actually going to load up a default profile. It's got 2 dedicated buttons for take a screen grab and for screen recording, which I've already been using during this video. So this is one that definitely gets a thumbs up from me. So one of the first things I did was set up my own little mini Davinci profile. Now you can actually go to the marketplace for Stream Deck and buy Davinci profiles that have already been done by people that know a lot more about this than myself. So what I've really done at the moment is just create a set of probably my 12 most frequent sort of keyboard shortcuts or actions that I do, and then a couple of other things using the dials, which I'll get to in a minute. One thing I'm doing a lot, as you can see in this edit, I've done, this is one of my older videos, I do a lot of cuts. So what I've done is added cut to a button, press the button, bingo, it cuts. Pretty straightforward stuff. Another thing I like to do is when I'm watching my previews is I like to put it in full screen, and that's Command F, I think it is, on Davinci on Mac, but now I've got it on a button. So if I just push this button and there we go, it goes full screen, and then bring it out back. Also, I find navigating between the tabs on Davinci a little bit of a pain in the ass. I know there are other shortcuts you can use to do it. Just push this button and I can sort of edit my audio just on a button push. I can go back to the main edit screen. If I want to go to the media pool, you get the idea. There's one for the color page. So I can just bing, bang, bang, and just jump around Davinci like that, which is pretty useful. I do a lot of toggling of the media pool, so I can just have a button for this. Again, I know there are keyboard shortcuts for this, but this is how I like it. And did the same thing for the effects tab as well. Now, one of these shortcuts that I'm most proud of, I don't know why, is because it's something that I feel like I didn't know that I need, and now that I have a whole button for it, life is amazing, is that quite often when I'm in Davinci, I want to insert something and move everything else along. Now, I know that you can do ripple edits and it'll do the same thing, but sometimes I want a little bit more control over it. This shortcut, which is Command and Y, will select every single clip after the playhead. So just push this one button and there you are. It's selected everything where the playhead is and forward. Now all I have to do is drag that along so I can insert stuff knowing that I'm going to move all my clips at the same time, not have a couple that get overwritten or mashed up. Because so many times I've buggered up my entire edit by moving something and overlapping a clip and having to fix it later on. Another thing I do on Davinci quite a lot when I'm scrubbing through source materials, I set an in point and then an out point, and then I want to paste that clip into exactly where the playhead is. And I love that I, O, and P, in, out, and paste are just perfectly there on the keyboard right next to each other. Couldn't really ask for more. However, I can a little bit because I created shortcuts on the Stream Deck for exactly that. So I go look at this clip. So wherever I am here, if I just want to set an in point, and then I sort of scrub through it and then get to here and I want to set an out point. And then all I have to do is push this button and do it. It's like a minor difference because I, O, and P are right next to each other. It's just how I like it. But perhaps my favorite part of the Stream Deck integration here, which we haven't talked about, but it's one of the things that called my attention most when I saw this was announced at CES in Las Vegas, is that it has 2 rotary dials. Now, you can use these for a number of things, but obviously the first thing I did was look at that so I can scroll my timeline with this one here. I've actually got it set to 2 different types of scroll. So I have, this is a conventional 1-frame scroll, which is, I have it on the right-hand rotary. And then if you want to go a little bit faster, I've configured it so it'll do like 5 frames at a time or something like this. And I've put that onto the other rotary. Now, some of the shortcuts that I've mentioned are default Davinci shortcuts. You just need to find out what they are and then assign that key to the right button on your Stream Deck. So if you look here, you can actually see the Stream Deck software with a visual representation of everything that I've just talked you through. So for example, if you wanted to assign the cut to a key, this is just pretty straightforward. I just chose hotkey from here, drag it over. I won't do that though, because that is going to delete it. And then you can see here that you can give it a name. I just put cut and then the hotkey. So you just Command and B, or you can do Command and slash as well. I think does the same thing. And this is true for the navigation ones. So here for Fairlight, it's Shift and 7 will take you to that on the keyboard shortcut. I've just assigned it to the button. Same for media, which is 2, Shift and 2, and then edit screen, which is Shift and 4. Pretty straightforward stuff. When you're assigning the rotaries, it is a little bit different. You want to go up to this top section in the software here. So the icons and the buttons, they're all ones I found within Elgato's own sort of icon library. So I just found stuff that was kind of more or less what I wanted it to be. You can actually upload images here, photographs, I think even animations as well. So if you really want to pimp out what the Stream Deck looks like, you can 100% do that. I just kept it really, really simple here. The ones at the top here, which are assigned to the rotaries, these are images that I found online and then sort of adapted a little bit. So I've got a snail for slow scroll, snail plus if I want to do the slightly faster scrolling. And if you click on each one, you'll actually see what they're assigned to. So you can see here that for the faster scroll, it's just shift and then left and right arrow, depending which way you rotate the rotary. And it's going to run that command every time you rotate it around. It's like tapping that shortcut repeatedly. But you'll notice there are actually 4 icons here and there are only 2 rotaries. So what's going on? Well, basically, each rotary can have like 2 layers. You can control 2 things. So when you want to switch it, you just hold the rotary down and then the white box will change to the other icon and you'll know that now you're controlling the other thing. So if I do that again, you can see that the box has dropped down and it changes what it's controlling. So that means that I've got slow and fast scroll right here next to each other. But if I go to the top layers for both of those, the plus and minus is because I've assigned zoom into the timeline. And the fast train is because I've told it to skip forward a clip every click on the rotation. So that's like a really fast way of going through. If I go back to my timeline, you can see that this is the fastest one. You can see it's jumping between clips. And then zoom is exactly as you'd expect. So what that means is if I'm sort of here and I want to get sort of here and cut in to do an edit, I can do that. Then I can press down the button to switch to a thing and I can get to the fast snail. And then if I want to get a little bit more specific, I can zoom in and then I can just do 1 frame at a time as well. So my navigation at this point is pretty taken care of thanks to the Stream Deck. Also, these buttons are clickable. You can actually assign a separate action to the click. So what I've done on the zoom one is when I press click, it goes boom and brings all the timeline back into view. Now, this is pretty basic and you can definitely get a lot more functionality out of this thing. You can get really creative and do some smart things. This whole setup took me maybe like 45 minutes to an hour, and that includes looking for the icons and sort of stuff like that. So it's not comprehensive. This is just a demonstration of what you can do. And you can do this, of course, in any video editing software. I just happen to use Davinci. So let's take a look now at what it does in OBS. Now, unsurprisingly, Stream Deck and OBS were kind of made for each other, so much so that Elgato itself has made it an official OBS profile. So I've just got the basics here. I've got record and pause record because that's actually quite handy when you just need to think a bit or if you want to clear your throat, that kind of thing. And I've got one of my scene selection buttons. You could actually have a whole bunch of scenes on here, of course. Also, it's pretty neat because Elgato makes the Stream Deck, but they also make lights. And I happen to have an Elgato light, is that through the Stream Deck, you can actually change, you can have direct control of the light as well. So right now I've got my light on 56K, so about daylight, but obviously I can change the color. And as you can see, we're getting a little bit more orangey here. We can make it nice and cold, but let's put that back to as it was. And obviously if it's not bright enough, then I can do all this. I sway to my other hand is on the Stream Deck and not on the light control or anything like this. And just to make things a little bit extra tight, I created a whole profile on the Stream Deck just for OBS and just for Davinci. Now you can tell it so that every time you open this app, default into this profile. So all I need to, in fact, I have a Davinci button on the top layer. So when I turn my computer on, there's a button for Davinci. Press that, Davinci launches, then that triggers the Stream Deck to switch to the Davinci profile. And then if I go over to OBS, it'll also switch into the OBS thing. So everything is kind of automated and just goes with you as you go around, which I kind of love. I will mention there is also an official Rodecaster video profile or plugin, for the Stream Deck. So if you have a Rodecaster video, you can download the plugin and you can add additional controls to your Rodecaster video, or pretty much any control for the Rodecaster video right here on the Stream Deck too, if you need it. Sadly, there isn't one for the Rodecaster Audio, the Rodecaster Pro 2, Rodecaster Duo, although I have been reading that you can download a MIDI plugin for this Stream Deck, and through the MIDI connectivity, you can control the Rodecaster Duo, Rodecaster Pro. But at the moment, that's like a little bit of a workaround. So I'm hoping that Rode might actually create a whole profile just for the Rodecaster audio devices as well, because that would be really, really good, especially if you can control the volume of the channels without having to reach over for your Rodecaster. So I'm pretty excited about what could be possible with this. I've only scratched the surface, and so far this looks like it could really help me speed up my workflow. I don't know if I'm going to be using this as my day-to-day keyboard. Just something about the layout adapting to that sort of slightly Windows-centric layout and the way that the keys click. I do prefer my mechanical keyboard that has the proper Mac layout with the clocky keys. But as a editing/creator keyboard, this has a lot of potential. I will say it's a little bit expensive though. It's about $350. Now, a really high-end mechanical keyboard should cost you, can cost you somewhere up north of $200, maybe even more. But then you're getting something with the premium finish and feel. Now, I do understand that obviously this has a Stream Deck integrated into it. Now, the average Stream Deck, I think the Stream Deck Gen 2 costs about $120. So when you put those two things together, the price isn't unreasonable, but it's definitely a lot of money if you're going to be using this just as an editing keyboard. If you're going to be using it as your day-to-day keyboard to kind of do everything, and it definitely can do that, then, I think it represents a reasonable price. But so far, this is what I've been doing with it. I would love to know if you have any recommendations for Stream Deck plugins, shortcuts, tricks, tips, tools, whatever. Let me know in the comments, and then maybe we can do another video on some of the best things that you can do with this thing. But for now, the important thing is that you get out there and go create.